Welcome to the Ink Panels Graphic Novel Book Club, episode 23. Yes, we are a month late on this one. Unfortunately, my book got held hostage by In-Stock Trades. They were the only company that carried this book currently.
I wonder why.
And I will say this, the price was cheap for how thick this book is.
Right?
It is a very meaty book.
It's meaty.
Yes. So this was your pick. This is a friend of yours' book.
Yes. So Chicacabra, the one copy that I have here is the one that I bought at the Puerto Rico Comic Con. Here it is. The Puerto Rico Comic Con when it came out. That's why it has a different cover than yours. All right. So this is one of my favorite books. It was written by Tom Beland. Before this, when I met him, he was doing True Story, Swear to God. It's like I would say, romantic comedy book. Story about his life and how he met his wife. Really, really, really good book. Something that I honestly didn't think I was going to enjoy. He was announced at a local comic book store, and I just went in to see what it was, and he was there, and I picked up a few issues and have him sign them, and went home, read them, and I was, oh shit, this is really good. So he continued that one for about 12 to 13 issues, and then it was picked up by Image Comics, and it was being published by Image Comics, but that didn't last that long, just a few more issues, like maybe 10, I think it was. Anyway, super good story. Then he started working on Chicacabra, and what for me makes it a special book is not only because a friend of mine worked really hard on it, and it's like you said, it's a really meaty book. You know, it has 190 pages, if I'm not mistaken. 189 pages.
Yes.
Plus, it has some sketches at the end. So not only was it done by a friend of mine, it's interesting that it takes so much from the Puerto Rican culture, and he's not Puerto Rican. He's from California, from Napa Valley, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, my memory is really bad right now. Anyways, so, and I thought it was really interesting because, we have comics done in Puerto Rico by other artists, mostly all independent, and we all try at some point to incorporate our culture into our stories or our books, and sometimes it's not the best. It's not done the best way. I know I failed in previous attempts, but this book, he understood us. He understood our culture, our people, how we talk, how we behave. It helps that he was married to a Puerto Rican, and I followed the creation of the book since the beginning, and when it was finally out, I went to the convention to get it and read it, and I was not disappointed from start to end. It was everything that I was expecting to read. Like I said, it took elements from our culture, not only the Chupacabra, but the things like the Vejigante and our music and our food and all that. And he used it really, really well. He didn't throw those things in there to say, I threw a couple Puerto Rican things in my book to get the Puerto Rican audience. It's a book that, when I read them, I read myself and I read my friends. I hear my friends talking to me, and so that's why I picked this book. It's one of my favorite books, and I've been wanting to have you guys read it since we started this a year and a half ago, but just never, I didn't think to bring it up yet. Actually, I mentioned it when we were talking about Monstrous.
Yes, I remember you bringing it up, and
yes.
I think you even said there might have been a sequel to this coming.
Yes, he's currently working on the second book, which should be equally meaty. So Chicacabra is a book of a girl that finds a Chupacabra, and that Chupacabra bonds with her, similar to like how Venom bonds with Eddie Brock. So now she has a Chupacabra living inside of her, and this tells the story of how that happened and what her life, and and how she handles and deals with having a killing machine inside of you.
Jen, for anybody wondering, Jen is going to be just a few minutes late. She
will be here.
texted that she was on her way from work, but she will be here. So going
before we
this,
continue, sorry, Dan, I'm sorry I interrupted you. I did invite Tom to the stream today, but he is working and he's in the same time zone as Jen, so he won't be able to make it. I think he's gonna try and stream. I should send him the link so that we don't just try.
Yeah.
So he'll probably be on the chat at some point.
Okay, cool enough. Going into this book, when you look at the art, you're like, okay, this is very cartoony, and I'm like, this is going to be lighthearted. Oh boy, was I fucking wrong.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me when True Story Swear to God came out. It was, I mean, it's the same style. That's what he's known for that style of cartoon. He used to do cartoons for a local newspaper in Napa, and I was like, this is not mean. But once I started reading, and especially in this book, you can see Smith's influence on his book Bones. That was the only, before this, that was the only book that was cartoonish that I read before, because I've
very long running book.
It wasn't my thing, but Bone helped me, see books with cartoon style differently, and definitely this book helped a lot too.
Mike Ringo is another guy who had a very like cartoony art to him, but it was very fluid and action packed.
Yes. Oh, I love his work. I miss his work so much.
Oh, very much. His Fantastic Four was fantastic. Don't
yes.
mean to do that.
Spider-Man.
Yes. So it hit me in a weird spot reading this due to current things going on and kind of dealing with loss in our community. Not going to really go into it, but it was just a weird timing of reading this book. Again, I wasn't expecting it so heavy, and I love the family dynamic with I'm probably not pronouncing it correctly. Tony.
Tio Tony. Yes, that's basically saying Uncle Tony.
Yes, and just how much of like he could flip from being angry to, oh, honey,
to being a very understanding adult.
Yes, and there is a part where he snaps at her going, look, I'm trying to hold this family together. I don't need your shit on top of this. And then they hug. Like, there is this great family, beautiful dynamic in the middle of this tragedy. I'm going to wait till Jen gets here till we start getting into the nitty-gritty of it. The art style is interesting because while cartoony, there are pages where there's actually facial gestures being used that convey so much.
Yes.
Even with the simplicity of the art.
I think
probably to the artist isn't simple, but
yeah, exactly. I took a few drawing courses, tutorials with him at some point, trying to learn different things and trying to grow as an artist, so it's not as easy as I thought it was. Cartoon is easier, it's simpler lines. Actually simplifying the drawing, it's more difficult than one like to admit, and one being me.
It's the thing where I feel like cartoonists they can kind of don't put the detail into it like you'd expect, but it's always in motion.
Yes.
And an illustrator has issues putting things into motion a lot of times. That's where, like, I heard the famous Frank Miller portfolio thing where, are you a cartoonist or are you an illustrator? And the person there melting down because they didn't know what the answer was. Which is an interesting way to look at it because, like, you start wrapping your head around it, like, what is an illustrator? What is a cartoonist? What is the line?
I personally think that a cartoonist, an illustrator, a comic book penciler, they all are, I can't say the same because someone who does illustration doesn't necessarily do sequential art, but it's not something that one can learn. But it's like, you remember, okay, so you remember these pens that had different colors in the same pen? So so a cartoonist, an illustrator, and a comic book artist are like the same pen but in different colors.
So my friend explained it to me like Jim Lee, Alex Ross, where it's dynamic images, but maybe not in motion. Illustrator.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have people where the page feels like it's constantly in motion. I would even say like Scotty Young
Scotty Young, yeah.
is more of towards the cartoonist.
Yes, Scotty Young started more into the cartoons, but now I have something to put your head around it. You see that painting back there? That's a Frank Frazetta painting. He's a painter, master painter, and his illustrations, his paintings have has motion to them. Has That's what I love about Fracetta's art. That his work, you see a painting of Fracetta, and it's a dude just standing there, but it's not a dude just standing there. You know what I mean? You can see that, you can feel that dude breathing, and you can feel and smell the air in that painting. Well, not literally, but you know what I'm trying to say, and that's one of the things that appealed to me about Fracetta's work, is that he's a painter, and I hate comparing it with other artists that do fantasy art too, but it's inevitable. When you compare it with artists like Boris Vallejo, that his paintings are magnificent. You can tell one from the other immediately, not only in the style of the
But it's
painting,
still life.
but you can see Vallejo's painting are a little bit. You can tell that that's a dude there posing with a sword for Vallejo to paint it. And versus when you see a painting from Fracetta, you can tell that he sat down into that canvas and he painted that thing there without, just he did use reference, but it was a little bit more looser, a little bit more dynamic. There's a good documentary called Painting with Fire about the life of Fracetta, and I feel like it's exactly that name just tells you how he painted. It's like he gets a canvas and gets a sword on fire and paints in the canvas. You know what I mean?
So welcome to art class, everybody. So we just Brandon Comics Kings and I just started doing a Daredevil show every 2 weeks. We just started Frank Miller's Volume 1 of Daredevil, and early Frank Miller, where his use of space and just the kinetic energy of the movement, where you look at Frank Miller now, it's interesting to see the de-evolution and the looseness now, where his art was like super tight. It's an interesting character art class with him at this point.
Well, with Frank Miller, you see, Frank Miller, it comes from a school of Eisner, and Eisner was a cartoonist, but he was also a graphic storyteller. He could tell a story in movement.
We have a guest here, Sid.
We have a guest. Oh, hi. No.
Yes, catch the replay, Sid. I'm glad you could stop in and say hello.
Yes. It's a really, 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 really good book. Not because I'm biased, which I should have started by saying that I'm biased, but it's a really good book.
Have you been reading Carmen by Guillaume March from Image?
No.
It is an interesting book. I think you might dig it. It's 4 issues now.
Okay.
It deals with basically a girl kills herself, and a kind of hipster angel comes and kind of does the "this is your life" thing and talks her through her death.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes, it was very interesting. I think it's 3 issues. The 3rd issue is probably the most dynamic. Totally interesting. And Guillaume March is a different art style, but as Gore Vidal here mentioned, it's constantly in motion.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check. I'm gonna have to check that out. For me, when I was getting into comics, it was all about the flashiness of the art and Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane and Dan Jorgens, and how beautiful that a book would look. More than what they can tell me with the drawings. It's still a visual medium, and through the years, and I learned, now I prefer to have a book that's I wouldn't say drawn with less enthusiasm or less flashiness than a Jim Lee book, but I can accept a different style, a more cartoonish style, if when I read the book, I I don't need words to understand it. You know what I mean?
I can appreciate the detail in it. At the same time, there's people like Steve Dillon who can do more in a facial expression
Yes.
than a page can do.
Yes.
And like Gary Frank, I love his art, and the evolution of his art over the years is fantastic as a draftsman. But at the same time, like, it's just too long for him to put his stuff out.
That's the problem with artists that detail. Travis Charest, Steve McNiven, Dylan. You know, these artists, they're magnificent artists. I mean, everywhere I see their name, I pick it up. You know, it's like, oh, I know, because I know I'm going to get something that is going to be visually appealing and beautiful. And if you can give me in one panel a sense of movement, you got me. You know what I mean?
I got to see if I still have it saved. I have pages from the Batman book that Silvestri worked on and never published.
Yeah, you told me about
I've got
that.
scans of it that my friend sent me.
You shouldn't be saying that on live, you know.
Bleeding Cool posted them also, so
okay,
they're out there in the wild.
Okay, so
not as many as I've seen, but
all right,
they're beautiful. And I was like, it probably took him a year to do those pages.
Damn. Probably. Well, yeah. I mean, Silvestri's art is I love it, but Silvestri's art looks like it's really like he draws really fast. You know, I think that's part of why it looks the way it looks, because he draws very fast, or at least that's the impression that I get from seeing his work. Hi, Jennifer.
Hello.
So we just went into art class for a while.
Oh man, I missed art class.
It's okay. You didn't want to get into the details of the book until you got here.
Yeah.
So your thoughts on first time reading?
Mine?
Yes.
So I will be very, very honest.
Please.
I feel like this was actually one of the most enjoyable books that I've read recently.
Nice.
I truly think that if you hadn't recommended it, I probably wouldn't have read it.
Maybe for the price we got it from InStock too. Like,
yeah,
it's a thick book.
It really is, and I feel like 100% this really easily could have. And you've mentioned it several times, Gambit. Like, you know, in like conversations in previous months, book clubs. You know, we've definitely talked about this book, and
there's a sequel coming.
Yes.
Oh, so like that was going to be, I didn't know like if we were going to get to that, but I could.
We just talked about it earlier.
I'd love to read a sequel to this. I truly felt like this book did such a good job having such like sensitive conversations, and like I felt like everything from the pacing to the plot to the character development, I thought was just really, really cool and really special. And especially considering that this book came out about 10 years ago, thinking about some of the quality of books that were coming out 10 years ago.
I never would have heard about this book if not for Gambit. Like, it just was so under the radar.
You know that he was nominated for an Eisner Award
for this one, or for
Sid, I will get it for you.
Not for this book, but for his True Story Swear to God story. It was the year that he was competing against Brian Michael Bendis.
Oh God!
Yeah.
he's like I didn't win, but it's
good
okay.
Company.
It was Brian Michael Bendis. So you know, it's kind of like a win.
So we were talking. I was like looking at the art and what the cover was, and then all of a sudden getting into how dark it gets right off the bat and the familial drama, like, and how like sensitive it gets and how like adorable Izzy is.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And like I said, the very sensitive conversations that it had, I think it did really well. And I was trying to figure out, because obviously the writer is not a young girl, but I think that, and not necessarily that Izzy's a young girl, because I guess she's like college age, or
almost like 11th grade, 12th.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
There was a moment where they talked about going out and drinking, and I'm like, well, maybe the laws in Puerto Rico are different, because here in the States, you have to be 21 to like drink, and even though she doesn't drink, like she's going out with friends who are drinking. So like I was trying to place the age there, but so it seemed like she was in high school, but having very college conversations. And
yeah,
so,
sounds like Puerto Rico.
Okay. So I was just kind of thinking about the headspace that maybe Tom Beland was in, and I felt like he either is maybe like father to a young woman or just very close because this was a very special book in that way. Like I really feel like um he got into that character. When I talk about the character development, I feel like he really got into that character's mind really, really well.
It had a
Yeah.
lot of space to work with also to
Mhm.
develop the character, and like her Uncle Tony, her Dio, he's so awesome.
Yeah, I love him. I now as a 42-year-old father, I can relate to Uncle Tony more than I did back then when I read it the first time. Uh, being a father, and I feel like I don't want to say that I'm like Uncle Tony, that I'm and sometimes but I am that type of father, to my kid. At least I try to
Mhm.
be that type of father to my kid, and it's really nice to see that represented. And like I said at the beginning, one of the things that I love about this book was how it felt so much like I was listening to my friends talking.
Mhm.
He understands the Puerto Rican culture. I have to be honest, more than I did at the time. If I try to write Puerto Rico, I can guarantee you, I probably I wouldn't be able to write it as good as he did, because he
Mhm.
did write it really nice. And the age difference when you're drinking down there, you're supposed to be 18, but
Okay.
it's a thing that they don't check ID in most places, and people
Yeah.
don't care. And Vio San Juan, one of the scenes in the book that she when when Tarantino hits her in the face with a pillow, and she immediately feels drunk, and she said it's San Sebastian drunk. San Sebastian is one of the parties that lasts like a week and it takes the whole town, and it's people drinking in the street, so you don't even have to be of age to drink, because you'll find a way to drink if you want to drink. So
Mhm.
I actually never asked him if she was in high school, or if this was like their first years of college, but I'm thinking that it's high school, because it's a
Yeah.
principal of the school will call you, not
Yeah.
the dean
So
of college.
I have a question. Do you think because he's not from Puerto Rico is why it seems like more like a love letter to Puerto Rico, whereas like people who don't live in New York write these love letters to New York, or look at it differently than if you live there?
Oh no, he lived in Puerto Rico when he wrote this book.
Oh,
I think the reason one of the main reasons is because he's had that first-hand experience of what being in Puerto Rico is, and what being in San Juan is. Uh, I don't want to get into too much of his personal life, but he was married to a Puerto Rican local celebrity at the time, so he got an experience that sometimes not even us Puerto Ricans get to get. He saw a different side, so the reason is this good, it's because of that experience of him living there, and him experiencing it firsthand. It's the reason, period, why I hear them talking, and I hear my friends also. It's funny because you can there that you can see some of the names that he uses for his characters are actual people that we know. So when he mentions those name, I know who he's talking about. When he says Lisette, and when he says Damayanti, I know who he's talking about. It's just, those are people that actually exist.
so like I
Um,
had vitriolic reactions to that kid Angel who smashes her fucking beetle.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to smack the shit out of him, and then
Yeah.
just my heart sinking about the story about what happened to her dad and her mother,
mhm.
where her father in a carjacking is shot and killed. The
Oh my
mother
God,
becomes
yes.
a vegetable and like retreats into her own mind, and just they talk about what a light she was in life, and just she just dimmed and just disappeared basically. It's horrible. Like right off the bat, you're like, oh, this is a cute little. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The entire time, I mean, not the entire time, because obviously, like, something happens in the rest of the book, and maybe, like, we'll get into that. But I was kind of hoping to get the perspective of the mom, because a lot of this book is told through Izzy being the narrator, and we get to hear a lot of her internal dialogue. And there was a part of me where I'm like, man, I hope that we get to hear part of the mom's story. And I was really kind of saddened that we didn't get to hear that, and for reasons, spoiler alert, the mom is in like a catatonic state, I guess, and spoiler alert, dies. So I was kind of sad by that, but I felt like it was a punch that was needed in the story.
Yes.
Morbius, I think you'll dig it. And also, thanks for having me on last night on your show, talking old readers versus new readers. It was fun.
Is that episode still on his YouTube channel?
It's on No Good Comics. I've got the link
right.
in my link tree.
Perfect.
It was a fun episode.
Nice. I would like to see that one. That's a very interesting subject that I would like to
It was touchy.
hear about. Yeah. Oh, I bet.
And hello, Scott.
Hi, Scott.
Another cartoonist.
Yeah, who did Dune-tober.
It's sitting back here.
Dune-tober.
Dune-tober. And lots of other fun things too.
So this book, like, it took me by surprise, because again, I wasn't sure what I was expecting, and I finished it and I was like, that took me through an emotional roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
Like, feel good moments, heartbreaking, and then like it's almost like the four things of grief, with like denial, acceptance, bargaining,
All of it.
and the Chupacabra is so interesting, the way they decided to do it. It looks like a Naruto creature.
One of the questions, maybe I could have done a little bit more research than I did, but obviously, we read this in trade, and I feel like it was a really easy read to go through, and the artwork is very like simple. I could definitely see this having been a webcomic. Sorry, you giggled at me saying simple. I don't know.
No, we just had this conversation.
We talked about it at the beginning.
Got it. I missed that. But with the artwork being very simple, I could easily see this having been a webcomic.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was originally published as a webcomic, if it was I get like lots of zine, lots of webcomic vibes from it. So, or I don't know if
this is the Polish version. This is it.
It was an
It's
OGN.
not- this is
Okay.
what you're holding in your hand, unless it said his second printing is the original printing of the book.
Because it said chapter. It was like chapter 1, chapter 2.
Yeah,
So I'm like,
he divides it. He divides his since it's such a long book, he divides it into chapter. But it was just that one book. He did it all in one sitting, and the same thing he did he's doing with the second one. That he is right now in the process of lettering it. And
He may be showing up in the chat at some point.
Yeah, and I've seen some of those pages, and they're beautiful, because his art, although it's the same style, has grown so much since then to now that it's incredible. It's incredible. Right, so let's start from the beginning. Let's try not to get lost in talking about art and all that.
It's been 2 months since the last time we met, so like it's been a while.
God, right? It's been 2 months already?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So we've had a lot of catching up.
because it was Swamp Thing.
Yes.
Yes, that was it. Oh, wow.
Right away, we find out her love of beetles,
Yes.
especially the rhino beetle. That's her jam. We meet Uncle Tony.
Uncle Tony. Tío Tony.
Tío Tony.
Yes. No, you can say Uncle Tony. You can say Uncle Tony. It's a translation to Tío.
And then we go right into him making her go say goodbye to her mother.
Yeah.
And
It's a
her
good one,
her kind of, I wouldn't say it's an avoidance.
I think it is.
It is, I mean, and I get it, I get it. You just don't want to have to handle that right this second, and you just like, you will try to get away from having to handle it. but she couldn't get away from it, and she had to handle it. And it's really sad. Two things I forgot about the book: how sad it's right off the bat, and and I forgot the other thing that I forgot to. Oh, that how much how much Spanglish there was in it. You know.
I loved that. There's another book that a series of books that I read recently. I'll just pull out the first one. But it's
I love the fact you know exactly where they are.
here's the thing is that I may be a messy bitch, but I'm like organized in my own
messy
head.
bitch. Yeah,
So like I
know.
know there's a lot of shit back here, but
Organized
I know where all
chaos.
of it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
1,000%.
Mm.
But I got this book last year during the pandemic. It's called Lowriders in Space, and it's
read that.
really, really cute. And it's I feel like I learned a lot of like bits and pieces of Spanish in it because the whole premise of the book is that they want to make their own, like they have like cars and stuff, and they want to make their own garage, and then they end up going into a lowrider competition. So they make their own lowriders that goes into space. And there's lots of like little moments where it teaches you Spanish. So for instance, there'll be a phrase in Spanish right here, and then it tells you the translation in the bottom.
Oh,
And it's
nice.
actually written by I guess a Spanish teacher. So anyways, when I was reading Chupacabra, even though it didn't have like the little translations, it reminded me of this, and that I feel like I'm being taught something, or at least like with culture and with situations that you'd use it in, and able to pick up what they were saying by like context clues.
Yes.
So anyways, I thought that Chicacabra was great because of that.
It's sometimes when he uses something in Spanish, the next bubble says something similar in English. So it's kind of like a almost immediate translation of what he of what he just wrote in Spanish. But it's really, like I said, it was. I always thought that it was really interesting that someone that's not Puerto Rican can speak Puerto Rican so well, and it's because he was down there and he got to experience us with different eyes, I guess, you know.
I want to give a shout out to her friends.
Which ones?
Friends?
Laura in particular, the smartass one who always has like a smartass comment after everything.
Yeah.
I love her to death. And then the hacker guy who wants to go to MIT, who's like, "Oh, you want Netflix here?
Here, he
Well,
puts
your water turned on here."
So here's the thing that, and this time reading it again. See, in Puerto Rico, we don't shut off the water and power that way. That we just don't have the technology to do it down there. Not because we don't have access to it. It's because the government just doesn't want to do that. Spend that money into that. So if they want to take if they want to take your water out, he would have known, because there would have been a truck in front of the restaurant working with the main, I don't know how you call that here, but main faucet, I guess.
It's the
water main. Yeah, he will be in front of the building, opening things, and it'll take him like 20 minutes to do that thing, So I just hack into the system and put back the water into you. No, it would have taken 3 days, because they would have to. And here's the thing: the dude would have been there shutting off the water, and you call and you fix the error, and you'll be like, okay, so don't shut the water. And if he's done by the time you're done with that call, he'll be like, okay, so I'm leaving now. They're going to send another person to put it back on, and he just leaves you with water. He's just right there. That's how it works. But let's not go there, because I'm just gonna get pissed. It's the only
like that's where your suspension of disbelief ends. Like,
yes,
it's a book about a young woman who becomes possessed by like a demon, I guess.
It's a creature. It's a creature. It's not a demon. It's just a creature that was in the island before. There were people in the island, basically.
Yeah.
And
but I love that you're like, my one point of contention.
My
is
problem
that
is
the water.
I like that Izzy has a super move, a garbage can thrown into somebody's back.
Can. Yeah. So in this first chapter, we get introduced to Izzy, to her family, what's happening there, and we get to meet all their friends, and the place where they are at smoking the devil's lettuce. El Morro. It's an old fort, an old Spaniard fort that's in San Juan, a very famous place for. If you go to Puerto Rico, you have to visit that fort. So they're just there on federal property smoking weed, and suddenly she decides to go exploring supposedly some caves that are underneath the castle. By the way, those caves does not exist. So if you go to Puerto Rico with the intent of going to see if those caves are down there, they are not. He just made that up for the book. And she gets there and she gets trapped and she gets trapped into that cave, and there's where she meets, this creature that it was in an old abandoned lab, 1960s lab that is abandoned underneath a 500-year-old castle in Old San Juan.
The college conversation goes on above ground before that too.
Yes. Oh, yeah, because he doesn't want to go to MIT, but his father went to MIT. His grandfather went to MIT. The caveman that are related to him went to MIT, and he feels like he has to go, but he wants to follow music. I feel you, dude.
And the guy who went to school and had $30,000 in debt is working at Taco Palace.
Yep. Isn't that relatable these days?
Oh, yeah, very much.
He works at Taco Bell and he has a doctorate on biochemistry. What? I know that person, by the way.
Love that.
The government lab in under the mountain is just fantastic.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, I like. I'm getting too close to the microphone. I feel like I'm screaming.
Okay.
I get excited. Nah. I like that they show that she's a geek. Mm-hmm. There's a Zelda. Ha! There's a Link statue bust on her room. I just call him Zelda.
I mean, Zelda's the most
okay,
important
now you
part.
got to get out of here.
Right, yeah, just gonna hand over my geek card. I'm just gonna leave. So this scene here, that background, you see here in that top sign on the top of the building. That's an actual building that's in San Juan. I can take you to that place right now that he drew in that page there when she's going out of leaving the party. There you go. Mm-hmm. Jesus, I'm sorry, guys. I'm using new setup and sitting in a different place.
I put you in solo so we can actually see it.
Trying to get accustomed to this new setup. So that's that conversation, that whole interaction right there when you're leaving a party, like I love you, baby. I know that's exactly how it happened.
Oh, sorry.
No, continue.
Oh, I was gonna say, I hope this doesn't come across as like insensitive, anyways, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it.
Go ahead. You're not gonna offend me.
Every single person who I've ever met that like is from Puerto Rico, and I don't know if it's because it's like a smaller island, but everyone who I've ever met, and I've never been to Puerto Rico, but I met a lot of people from Puerto Rico living in Florida. I feel like so many of them loved talking about like Puerto Rico and like the island, and I feel like there's so like there's such a connection to the island and like such a deep love for it. Like I got into like in an hour-long conversation with a passing person who I'd never met before about all of the places that I should go in Puerto Rico if I ever got a chance to go there, and like, oh, you've got to go here and you've got to go to like this beach, and like, oh, this place is only, and just like a passing conversation. And I feel like everyone who I've met from Puerto Rico loves the island so much and just wants to talk about Puerto Rico, and I felt that in this book.
And then you get to the politics and education system, and then you'll start hearing a lot more.
I talk about politics and in the education system all day, every day. So please.
I try not to talk about Puerto Rico unless someone asks me. Not because I don't like talking about my island, because every chance someone asks me, I can go on for hours, and we can talk about politics, and we can talk about the education, and we can talk about the people, and we can talk about culture. We can talk about for hours, but I just don't bring it up unless someone asks me, "Hey, where you from?" I'm from Puerto Rico. Like my customer today asked me where I was from because he have a thick accent. He said. So yeah. Been living here for five years now. Oh, nice. You speak English very well. Yeah, thank you. comics and heavy metal for you.
Nah.
And then he immediately asked me if I had to take a, a citizenship test. He didn't. He let me clarify. I'm not
I
here
was gonna say
dissing on
that
my.
sounds
No, no, no,
low-key
no.
racist, but I
No,
mean,
no, 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 no. I'm not dissing on my customer. What my
yeah.
point is that there's so much ignorance, and about a bunch of stuff, but mainly about what Puerto Rico and it surprises me that people. I would think that people in Florida would have a better being so close and having so many of us here, that people in Florida would have a little bit more understanding, but it turns out that no, that she's not even touching school, and
Yeah.
it's very different to our school system down there, where we have to take an English class for 12 years. It's mandatory in your curriculum. You have to take an English class from first grade to 12th grade, and when you go to college, you still have to take English. Here you have the option of taking Spanish for a few years in high school if you want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they teach us about the history of the United States. Like, my history class in 11th grade was just the history. It was called the history of the United States. It was just history of the United States. Versus here, they don't teach you anything about the island. Although, even though the island it's a part of the states, it's very little. So I at first I would get angry at people that I would ask me things like that, but now I read the room, and that's why this morning when I was talking to my customer, I didn't get angry at him, because I know that he was actually asking out of curiosity, out of like, so how does it work, how, and that's when I opened my mouth about Puerto Rico. Otherwise, I just but it is what you say. The majority of Puerto Ricans like to talk about the island and are very proud of the island. I am very proud of my island. Well, not at this moment right now, but that's for entirely different reasons.
Oh, see,
And
I'm like,
and
why? I want to know.
oh,
Like,
you want
tell
to
me.
know?
Or
You want to know?
I mean,
his political art for
And
Okay.
it's part of the
It's
culture
yeah,
of
it's
this
it's
book.
it's re- it's,
So
rela-
it's so
it's
relevant.
related. So in 2019, to make a super long story short, in 2019 there was a bunch of protests in the island trying to make the governor at the time, Ricky Rosselló, renounce his post for making fun of the people that were grieving the loss of their families in Maria, and there was a leak chat conversation that was supposed to be private, secure, but it was not. Government officials commenting, including the governor of the island, commenting and talking about and basically planning how to steal money from the people, and how they're going to uh, uh, coger de pendejo their own people, like taking their own people for a fool. He says that, like, I've shared that picture many times. It's him and his text saying we take it's a very disrespectful way of saying it, but it's saying that we take advantage even of the people that vote for us. You know what I mean? Like, even our people, we fuck them over, and that trigger a bunch of that, and amongst other comments that he said, and other things that he said, and other things that were discovered, triggered this avalanche of people going out to the street to protest in 2019, the summer of 2019. And like, in total, between the people that you had in the island protesting, and it was almost close to 1 million people, I think, protesting. And let me remind you, there's only 3 million people in that island, so that's a lot of people to go out there to scream get out, and he dragged that shit out, and I don't like to throw the word hate, but I hate that person. We have this governor that not only has uh talk shit about the people, and how he takes them all for a fool. When he was young, he killed an endangered species turtle. He killed a family driving drunk, and he got away with it because his dad, guess this, uh, his dad at the time was the governor of the island. So yeah. Anyways, so long story short, right now I'm angry because a few days ago there was an election to choose people to go from the island uh, to come here to the states to on behalf of getting the statehood for the island, and not many people went out to vote, and that's super disappointing because the people that actually did go to vote voted for him again. So as much as I love my island, as much as I am very proud of of where I come from and my people and my culture, I am highly disappointed at the lack of turnout. It's like they forgot why they were out there screaming, and getting him out, and for the lack of people that went out to vote, and for the fact that there's still people that, even though they told them to their face, basically, you are an idiot, they still went out like and went and voted for him. But let's not get into that. But that's why I'm not right this second. I'm actually a little bit disappointed in my people.
So was I the only one who stopped and clapped when she beheaded those fuckheads in the elevator?
Yes. I mean,
was
you
right
were
there
not the
with
only
you,
one who
yeah.
stopped and clapped. I'm saying that
Yeah.
yes, because yes, you did that. Yes,
Mhm.
I love that. Yes.
Like, I was just like, fuck these guys. And then I was like, please, please, please. And then they showed, like, the guy was like, listen, I just want to I don't want to wait for the elevator. I just want to walk up the stairs with these fucking bags.
A few pages after that, I think that she's talking to her uncle about, like, he's mentioning something on the news, and he's mentioning that it
About them
talks
being
about
rapists.
that event, and he said that they were recently let out of jail for being murderers and rapists, and I was like, they didn't, and so she feels a sense of relief after hearing that news, because obviously she just killed them. She was the person who killed these murderers and rapists who were just let out. And I'm like, I honestly didn't need to hear that to justify her murdering them. Like, good for her.
Oh
Good
yeah,
for
yeah, yeah,
her.
yeah.
I also like the part where she's trying to sleep afterward and she's having this dream and she's like, my entire universe was bottled in a giant test tube and just blackness.
Mm-hmm.
And she's relating it to her own life of just dark and death. And we go further into her history when her uncle goes off on her for not apologizing. Yes, that page.
Yeah, I think that out
yes.
of the whole book, I think that, like, this little inner monologue is probably one of my favorites. It read like poetry to me,
It's
so I
subtle.
really
Yes.
appreciated that. Mhm.
Yes. I like that it's supposed to be uh the monsters, Chicacabras, the Chupacabras, you know, dialogue, but it reads as if she's the one who's reading it. Just tells you how tight that bond is, how they merge and they basically are almost one. And it gets to you, like you said, it reads like poetry. I feel like at some point, all of us at some point felt that right there, that you're naked in a room, black, cold, and there's nothing around you. You know what I mean?
This page, in particular, reminded me of A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, the comic book.
Did you watch the movie?
I still haven't watched
Still
the
on
movie,
Shudder.
no. Okay, I'll try to watch that, but it's because so much of the artwork of that book to me is in
It's like
this
that.
style. Like, not necessarily that this has like an easily identifiable style, but the book is basically, there's so many moments where the main character in A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night is like walking through the desert and kind of explaining where they've been, and she's like nude in some parts, like or clothes are kind of like falling off of her. So that page reminded me of that book, which I
Basically,
really,
bearing
really
your
enjoyed.
soul.
Yeah, for sure.
I love when Angel goes to apply the job at Tony's restaurant.
Yeah.
Where he's like, oh, so Isabel, and he's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. Like, why does that name sound familiar? Oh, I remember you.
I felt very conflicted because, to me, maybe not a big part, but that kid, I can't remember his name, but he was the beetle killer.
Angel, he's
And
acting
Angel.
out.
Yeah. And so I feel like I wanted to hate him, and that him getting the job at the restaurant, and then her uncle who's hiring him is basically like, oh, I remember you. You're the kid that like was basically a douchebag to my niece, and you know, why do I want to hire
Hello,
you?
Tom.
Why would you?
Appreciate you coming in.
Oh, hello. We're talking about a really cool book here. So you know, the conversation with Angel that Uncle is having is basically like, um, I don't know. It's I feel like, oh, sorry, the conversation that he's having is basically like, why would you do that to a girl who like her father died in a carjacking, her mother is like basically in a catatonic state, and then the kid's just like, I kind of wanted to slap him because he's like, oh, she still has her mom. Must be nice. Like there was this moment, and so like I get where they were trying to go there, and there's this like character redemption arc for him. So there's definitely that moment where like literally all it took was like one panel, and I wanted to like slap that guy, and then it took the rest of the story to be like, okay,
You succeeded in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did
Yeah.
a great job on that because yeah,
100%.
he's like Joffrey, you know, he's hateable. It's like
Well, Joffrey never redeemed himself.
yeah,
Yeah,
except
true.
that Joffrey
There's
just
no
died.
redeeming quality.
It's
Yeah,
like-
that's
So-
yeah.
Coming up, there's the adorable part with her in the mirror going, like, trying to summon the Chupacabra. She's like, Chupa be free. Go Chupacabra powers. Chupacabra fragilistic. And she's just like, nothing.
Yeah, I like that. I like that part too, and I like right after that. One of the things that it made me love this book so much too. I mean, aside from all the other things that I just listed that I love about it, is that, you know, when they're talking about they're talking about her father. He's talking about he sees that she has some comic books on the floor, and she say, "Oh yeah, I like comic books. Right? I'm into Sandman, you know. I'm into," and you're like, "Oh my god,
Strangers in Paradise.
Strangers in Paradise," you know, and they go on about talking about these books, and he
Thor
tells
versus
how
Superman. Where the uncle's like, by the way, it's a Euro hammer. Magic.
it's magic. So yeah, it's that's and I feel like that's Tom right there speaking. That's Tom's voice right there, like being like super geeky nerd, you know, like it's obvious that Thor will kick his ass because the hammer is fucking magic, you know what I mean? And I
Playing the
love
music
that.
as loud as possible.
Yes,
That's
I love
daddies,
that.
too.
So this thing about playing El Gran Combo loud as fuck, you know, on the weekends, that's a very very thing, Puerto Rican thing that we do. You know, I'm pretty sure that other cultures do it too. I'm pretty sure that's not an exclusive thing. But for me, being, you know, from the island, that's some of the things that I remember of growing up. You know, growing up, my mom would get up and on Sundays, and you're trying to sleep at least until 9 a.m. because it's still Sunday, and she wants to clean the house, and she puts music on really loud, and you hear this old salsa playing super loud all day, you know, and you have no option but to leave the house to get on your bike and go out so that you don't have to listen to that. So I can relate to her when she's later saying, "Oh, for years I wanted the house to be quiet so that I can at least study, and now the house is super dead," you know.
I
They also-
definitely I feel like that was part of like my childhood, but like it wasn't salsa music, it was like Elton John.
My
Like,
mom was the
and
Doors.
Pink Floyd, yeah, 100%.
Nice.
LA Woman, I can never get out of my head.
So
It just, like, used to be jamming so loud on the weekend.
I get a mix of old 50s rock and roll, you know, old salsa, you know, 70s music in Spanish, in English, you know. That's why that's why I have the taste I have in music. Although I feel like I'm a metalhead at heart.
Yeah.
At heart, I can listen to anything, you know, and enjoy the music for what it is, for music, for something to be enjoyed and experienced, you know, deep. And these scenes where when they say, and we read comic books and we listened to the radio as loud as we could, and nobody called the cops and nobody said anything. And that shit touched me, you know. That shit touched me because that like what I mentioned later, that scene where she's alone, she said nobody, and now it's quiet and you don't hear that. When I moved here, that was one of the things that just threw me off. It was how quiet it was here. I was living in a seven floor apartment, and when I went to bed those first few months, I could hear myself breathing, like, and that shit would keep me awake because it was so weird to be able to hear my own breathing because it was so quiet. And and although it's not the same thing, I just moved from the island to here. In the island, it's so loud all the time that coming here and all that silence gets to you. It's like
Moving from New York here was also jarring for me because I
Yeah.
was used to the sounds.
yeah.
Even
Yeah,
if it
yeah.
was just the cicadas at night, like I knew those sounds, and then it was just gone.
Yeah, in Puerto Rico, you except for the city parts of the island, once you leave the metropolitan area, the San Juan area, everywhere you go, once you reach certain hour, things quiet down a little bit, but you still have noise, you still have cars moving around at ungodly hours with music super loud, in their cars because that's a thing. But if it's not that, you still have we have crickets and we have the coqui, which I don't hear here.
Mm.
And we have other noises that when I move here, it's like a deprivation chamber in that apartment. It's like so quiet, it's so weird. Now I have the humming of the AC closed, so at least there's that.
There's a very sweet part where the Chupacabra at night goes through the pictures of her father and her mother, and then goes up in the attic and starts sniffing all the clothes, and then she wakes up surrounded by all the pictures and the clothing. And I was just like, that's so adorable.
And it's such like a good shot too, because it's like this shot from above, so you like
She's
see
hugging
her, like,
it.
hugging it, and yeah, just surrounded by it. It was very beautiful.
That's right. This one right here.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah, it's just there's certain shots here, and Tom, if you're still in here, like, you did such a great job conveying the emotion in the page.
Mhm.
Yes, that's one of the things that I really love about his True Story Swear to God book was there was no action in it. There was no chupacabras running from building to building. There was no vejigantes, magical creatures. There was nothing. It was just a regular human being telling the story of how he met this lady at a bus stop, and they end up getting married. And it was a beautiful story, and the emotion in that book, like, legit, it was like, as I fell in love immediately, and I tried to get he wrote some books, some Fantastic Four books for Marvel, where they were in Puerto Rico, and I think they are out of print right now. I think you can find them in a trade, but there's a version of them in Spanish, and I think it was the first time that they simultaneously published the book in English and in Spanish at the same time. I might be mistaken, but something along those lines.
Even the doctor that shows up eventually was interesting.
uh, Chemo. So in English it's Chemo, right? You CH is, so in Spanish it's like CH, right? CH, sorry. Immediately went to Spanish. The funny thing about this character is that during the 90s in Puerto Rico, there was a mayor in one of the towns that um, his name was Chemo Soto. And when the whole Chupacabra thing started, he brought in the military, and he went into the fields and the mountains, to try and catch this thing. It was whole thing, and people thought that he was, out of his mind. There's a whole episode of X-Files about it too. And I always thought that it was funny and beautiful that he included that, his own version of it into the book.
In the history of the Chupacabra genocide.
Yes, it's not that different from what the Spaniards did when they arrived there, but it's a whole nother story. But So,
the
you know
sad
what?
story of Chemo's dad.
That, yes. So this, when I was telling you guys about, when I say storytelling versus just plain beautiful pictures, pages, this is a beautiful page that if you take all the words out, please don't, because everything that's said in that page is important. But if you take all those words out of that page, you can follow that whole page, no problem, without the need of it. And that's something that I've learned to appreciate a little bit later in life. Not when I started into comic books. This is one of the reasons I love this book. You have a lot of pages that are just that. There's motion. There's something happening in those panels that you can tell what's happening without reading it. Reading it obviously gives you more insight into what's happening into the head of these two characters. But you can follow it, no problem. I love that you love Nutella that much to give me a hug.
Uncle Tony has also got an Italian concept of food will fix anything.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a pasta. You love pasta.
I mean, that is nothing that is not touched in this book or addressed in this book. But it wouldn't surprise me that he has some. I mean, his name is Tony. It wouldn't surprise me that there's some Italian in him at some point in his lineage, And as Puerto Ricans, it actually can happen. It could be that you have some Italian in you, and that food fixes everything. We do that too. Food fixes everything. It's like, it's so fat.
For Jen, was it tacos or whatever you were getting weekly for a while during the pandemic, or I can't remember what it was. You were getting some Mexican food that you're always posting like food porn of.
Yeah, I do feel like there's so much good food here. I feel like it's tacos. There's also like another really kind of Asian inspired place that I really like. I was talking with Mars the other day, or it was right after a stream, and my partner had brought me ramen, and she was like, "What? You have a ramen place within walking distance?" And I'm like, "Girl, I have 5 within walking. That's not an exaggeration.
What?
There's 5 ramen places within a mile radius, and those are the ones I know about. There's so much good food here."
We have a Naruto themed one in Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's another one in Melbourne that is not Naruto team, but is anime inspired. And you go in and there's anime all over the walls, anime drawings all over the walls, really good decals. It's not just they didn't hire me to make those drawings in the wall. They have really good stuff on the wall. A bunch of 3D printed statues and shit like that. It's really cool to see. It's kind of all over the place. It's not. I think there's the one in Orlando that's Dragon Ball Z
too. Also, inspired. It and the Naruto one are a block away from each other.
I was gonna say, is that right on iDrive? Is it nearby the convention center?
The DBZ one is, the Naruto one is downtown.
Okay.
Over by Church Street, or where Church Street used to be. Speaking of Naruto, there is the page in here where her and the Chupacabra are together in the dreamscape. And they're just in this field with all these what looks like a butterfly mixed with a seahorse. I'm not sure. Yes.
Which part is that? Yes. Here I am. Where did you see a seahorse there?
The weird butterfly, but it kind of has a
seahorse face. Yes. Well, I think it's supposed to be just fantastical, mystical, fantasy creatures, Okay, so you see this scene right here where he's just cooking. He has no dialogue, but you can tell. Tell me that
he's working shit out.
Yeah, he's working shit out right there, and you can see it in his expression, in his face, and he's just there concentrating, doing his thing. And the doctor goes like, "Man, that smells really good," and he's like, "Yeah, of course."
We all have that way of coping, though. For you, it's probably withdrawing into your art.
Oh yeah, it's just drawing. That's what I've been drawing.
For him, it's cooking. For me, it's probably reading obsessively.
I one thing that I want to address, because I think we passed it. Okay, no, I don't think we did it. All right, continue. Sorry. Let me see if I can find it.
We can jump forward. I feel like
we can because right now it's just meeting the characters. I love how you get some exposition, but it's not boring,
And they start bonding with the Chupacabra.
Yes, that was
where
really
it's
cool.
Playing with the ball, it's fetching. It starts nuzzling. It's got the ball in its mouth.
Yes.
They kind of domesticated a little bit, and then they find out all the animals in the neighborhood have been getting eaten.
Oh my God! Yes,
and it's sneaking up on the cat. She's like, "No, No.
Well, one thing that I appreciated about this book is, and I feel like the stories that I love that have like monsters with them or like horror stories is I love whenever the monster, like it's like who's the monster? Is it the person who created the monster or is it the monster itself? And so I feel like that those humanizing moments with the Chupacabra, I feel like those were the most enjoyable parts, or at least like with the conversation, because it's like we're treating it like a monster, but it's really not the
Not.
monster. Like the humans are the real monster.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's super obvious who the monster are in this story.
Hmm.
And oh god, this part where he's yelling at her and he's like, I understand you've had some serious shit happen to you. I do, but god damn it, I've had to go through it all as well. I'm dealing with the same pain you are, and I feel like I'm not getting help with any of it. I felt alone, and they hug.
Yeah,
It's touching. Like
it is. It really is a touching. The book has a lot of touching moments, and I love that it, especially these days that having to deal with loss so recently, so close to all of them, so close to each other. Um, it 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 helps deal with that. Something that he's told me before is to celebrate the people that are not here. Celebrate them, and that's one of the lines in the book. Celebrate them. That's why they go and go to the attic and read comic books and listen to music. It kind of helps to manage, or it's a lesson how to manage loss, how to manage.
There's a phrase that I only heard recently, and it was after Ruth Bader Ginsburg had passed away. And from what I understand, it's like a Jewish cultural phrase, and it's "May their memory be a blessing." And after this last year of dealing with deaths during the pandemic and moments like that, I feel like, sorry, I have a cat rioting in the kitchen, but may their memory be a blessing, I feel like is something that I will take with me forever now.
Yes,
It's
yes.
just a pretty, I feel like that was that moment, like, let's celebrate them being alive. I'm about to
so
go kill this cat.
on a
This cat
personal
is about to be a blessing. I'll be right back.
like on a personal note, when the anniversary of my mom's passing, like my mom loved the Moody Blues. So I'll go through on the Moody Blues for a couple of hours and she loved you too. So I'll play that just as kind of like,
yeah.
This is for you, Mom.
Yes, I when I'm down on a funk, when I'm down on a funk, because I remember the friends that are, or the family members that are not here. Most of my friends, mostly, it's, I go through the things that I know that they like, they loved, the things that we shared together, and we just go through them. Right now we have the blessings of having pictures on the phone. Now we have that it's a little bit easier to go through those things, and also harder to a certain extent, because let me tell you, man,
accessible.
These past 2 days, every time I open my Instagram, or every time I open my Facebook, or
It's a reminder.
I had to see another picture of Red, and that shit, man, that's really fucking hard, dude.
It was weird. I saw her the other week at the mall when I stopped in to get my books.
Dude, yes, it's like,
yeah, I texted and I had a discussion with her and just kind of left it as what it was, like, hey, like,
yeah,
but we're not going to get into that.
Yeah. So reading this, it got to the heavy parts, and they touched. The first time I read it, it didn't touch me the same way. It didn't affect me the same way. They were touching. They were good. Those moments, but I guess now, being older, going through the things that I've been going through these past few weeks, it's just been I don't know. I don't know. I don't. We're not getting to that. Let's go back to the book.
Yeah, and then she goes and steals weed from a guy's house.
Oh, dude, that was the best part. Oh, this is a lot of weed. Ah, you
Like,
know what I
this is some
like?
good stuff. I think
Yeah, some
like
good shit.
Yeah.
Calito sells the good shit. That's true. Calito sells the good shit. So one of the things that I loved about this book is one of the other things. One of the things I like about it was that how he addressed the clothing breaking every time she transforms, in every time the Chupacabra takes over, and the doctor just go like, I'm just gonna put this injection on you, and you're gonna have now nanobots living in you that will create anything you want to like.
Yeah, it's basically the Fantastic Four's unstable molecules.
It's like,
this is what it is. We're not going to explain it.
It's like science. There you go. Bam. Yeah. How does it work? Science, man. Oh, okay. Yeah, perfect.
That's all you need to know.
It's funny. Now that I mention it, I have no problem with dealing with believing that technology exists exactly like that in that book, but I can't handle the fact that they shut off the water through the system.
Also, Angel defends her during the fight with Carlito.
Oh yes. That was really that's some character growth right there, man. That's when you go like, oh shit, this was needed.
Her garbage can attack. He stole it.
I mean, it's a mimic.
And, Laura calls it out. She's like, "That's your move."
I like that. She having this killing machine inside of her. It's kind of a reflection of her anger issues. You know, she now has to, not a reflection. She now has to learn how to handle her anger, because now her anger can kill people. You know, it's like making that anger that she has manifest, like be an actual thing. You imagine that every time you get angry, somebody dies because of your anger, you know, because
basically the Hulk.
You know, yeah, you know, it's like, yeah, but more cute, you know, and yeah.
And then we get to what the hell's the character's name? They beat the flying the Ventimiglia.
Oh, El Vejigante.
But he was like Tarantino.
Yeah. It's like Quentin Tarantino. So Vejigante. Okay, so this is one of the parts of the book that when I read it the first time, it took me by surprise, because I was not expecting. That's a very very Puerto Rican culture thing, you know. It's made with coconuts. It's the mask is made with a coconut, and you put spikes on it, and you paint it, and it's like this weird creature, you know. And I never thought, how could you make that? And they dress like that, you know. People dress like that, and to celebrate, you know, usually around Christmas. That's why his pillows, when he hits her, it's like tastes like Christmas. It's because it's everything that's good about that, you know. And I never for the life of me would have ever thought I would see a Vejigante in a comic book and be like, shit, that's actually pretty fucking cool, you know? And
can you pronounce it again for me?
Vejigante.
Vejigante.
Yes. So the J sounds like a oh, look at him. He doesn't want to. His dad, stop it. Don't do this.
Like, put on the spot. He's been sitting under my foot for like the past hour.
It's like, don't embarrass me in front of the wizards.
Okay.
He's like, I need down there by the feet.
Exactly. Don't do this in front of my friends. Jesus. So the J in the J in Spanish sounds like when you say house, you know. So it's Vejigante.
Vejigante.
Yes.
I'm butchering that, I'm sure.
Yeah. No. Actually, it sounded really good.
Thank you for making me feel better.
No, I am not.
Shout out to Tony waking up and seeing her in the kitchen eating everything.
I mean, I can relate to that. Being in the kitchen eating everything.
The pizza was homemade mozzarella. Try the onion dip. Oh my god, tostones.
You know, tostones. Tostones. You know. So they have a conversation about tostones in this book.
Tostones.
And Angel says that tostones need to be thin, and the other dude says that the tostones need to be thick, and they are equally right and equally wrong, you know, because both of them are stupidly delicious. But if you manage to get a nice ratio between thickness and thinness, you get like that perfect size, and you cook that, and then you put a little bit of salt and maybe a little bit of garlic, and then you put some mayo ketchup in it, and you put that shit in your mouth, and it's like
Yeah, but almost had a salt beam. I was like, you put a little salt.
it's like, I mean, that was a purpose, every time you talk about salt, you have to do this. You cannot talk about salt and not do this anymore. It's frowned upon. Everybody knows that.
Also, when Tony creeps up on her, he's like, when you're done, I expect this kitchen to be spotless. And she's up on the camera like, oh.
I mean, she did make a mess, but
oh yeah. But she's like, also, oh, that black eel sushi.
What's funny is that when you're reading it, it's so subtle that Izzy's not eating. Oh, you're not eating anymore. Yeah, but and they mention it here, and then they mention it. Yeah, your uncle was really worried about you. You should eat something, and she's eating a piece of pizza, and then they realize that it's just that when she's sleeping, Chica is eating the
dogs and cats, and then he's like,
the pets in the neighborhood.
That gray dog down the way was pissing me off because I couldn't sleep.
And then she goes like, don't eat them. One, because I taste them. I can taste them when I see them. You imagine you walking around and you look at a picture of a missing dog, and you go like, huh, why do I have this taste of meat in my mouth right now? That's horrible. Tarantino can't raise it. I'm not that fast reading. Oh, you see that thing, that detail of his voice sounds like a classroom of kids talking at once. That's creepy. It can be very creepy. I think depending on the setting, but I think that Tarantino was handled so well. I feel like I said, I never thought that I would read a comic where I would see a Vejigante and I'll be like, shit, that's actually pretty fucking cool the way he handled that. And that's when I set up this takes me back to the beginning of this conversation, when I said that the one thing that makes me love this book so much is that he understands our culture in a way that some of us don't even understand it. That like I said, if I try to write something Puerto Rican, it's going to be probably corny, it's probably going to be funny, it's going to be probably super weird, but he did it, and he did it in a way that it was done properly. When she's sleeping in class and she wakes up and she mentions about the Taínos and she mentions the Arawak, that's a very specific detail that even when I was in school I didn't know. It's like, shit. I mean, by the time the book was out, I already knew that, but it's those things, those little details, and they're not that little, but those details and that attention to detail to our culture and our people and our modern people, and not fall into the stereotypes of what people assume Puerto Ricans are, and let's be honest, and not fall into the stereotypes of how some Puerto Ricans are, because the stereotypes exist for a reason. You know what I mean? And I like that this gringo, and I'd say that with a lot of love for him. This gringo from California comes into the island, and he loves our island and he loves our culture so much that he writes a whole book around it, and he does a good job about it, Mm-hmm. And that shit, that takes us back to a few episodes ago when we were talking about representation and how representation matters, and how when I saw that movie Brooklyn versus the Bronx, I was like, oh shit, I am there. It's when I read this, it's like, oh shit, that's me and my friends talking when we were in high school. Oh, that's me now talking to my kid. When he comes and when he calls me that he has an issue that he wants to talk about. And yeah, shit matters, man. And he did a great job, and I love this book, and I'm gonna say that until the day I die.
So we move on to the gut punch part of this story.
Yeah.
So she's at the beach with Laura, and a text from Uncle Tony comes, and you don't know what it is. She takes off as the Chupacabra, and she's running across the top of buildings, and then we see, I don't even want to ruin the pronunciation, we'll just call it Tarantino.
Tarantino. Yeah.
Going into the room with her mother, so we know bad's coming.
Yeah.
And we definitely now go to her mother's past. They're loading her into the ambulance. And like Tony, you see the look on his face. It tells the story already before you even really know it. It shows doesn't tell yet. And then she runs up and they hug. You see the tears coming from her. And they're having the what happened, she was fine, what happened. And she's breaking down. She's in her room for days. And we've all had that after.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Like her friends are coming over and he's like, she's asleep. Just leave her be. And then Chemo comes over and he's like, yeah, like she hasn't eaten. But then they're like, oh no, the Chupacabra is making her eat.
Yeah. I like that comment that Tom commented just now. That is that he constantly contacts me to make sure that he gets a Puerto Rican slang. He usually contacts me to make sure that he gets the slang right. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. Very rarely I have to say no. Maybe change this, maybe change that. So very rarely I have to tell him no, that's not. So that tells you how much he gets us talking, which is so weird. Which is so weird that someone understands how we talk and how we interact with each other. I forget the camera is here. I'm going to hit it at some point.
So the Vejigante shows up on the foot of her bed, basically.
Yes. It's one of my favorite pages.
Starts talking as her mother. And I don't know about you guys, but I would break down just as badly to have that last chance to talk to my mother. And the Vejigante broke the rules badly.
Yeah.
And there's a price.
I mean, I get it though, I get it. I can't relate. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I can't relate to that deep personal loss. I can't relate to that loss, but I can relate to loss. And
I also like that while this is all going down, the doctor's downstairs, the beer in his hand with popcorn, watching TV.
Sorry. Yeah. So yeah, there's definitely a part of me that would like to have that one last conversation with a few people, like that one time. So I get it. I get that moment.
This like emotional part, I feel like it came out of nowhere. And I feel like I said earlier, this is probably one of the best books that I've read recently. And for those of you who don't know, I read an insane amount of books. So I feel like that's not like, oh, this is like the fourth book that I read this year and it was the best one. Like seriously, like this is one of the best books that I've read recently. And I feel like that moment was so surprising. Like I feel like I didn't see it coming. It was completely unpredictable. And maybe that's why it hit, but it really handled that sensitive topic like perfectly.
Definitely.
Yes.
And again, this is a true indie, and these are the books we should really be supporting.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're done with this, I'll tell you where you can buy the book if you're interested in it, which I mean, after this, you're probably going to want to read it because we've basically just done an 1.5 hour love story.
That he said in the comment here that when his sister died, and he said the same thing to his brother that Isabel says to her uncle, said, why does this keep happening to us?
I think everybody has that moment.
Yes. That I think that somehow we all have that moment, when it, especially when it comes to death, And then the other day I was talking about that at the studio. There was a period of time where a bunch of friends died, one after the other, and family members passed away one after the other, and it was to a point kind of comical. It's like shit. Like it seemed like for like 3 or 4 years, almost every month, I was going to a funeral. So that line, what did this keep happening to us? Like,
Hey, Jen, have you read this Daniel Warren Johnson book?
I have not read Murder Felony. I am
Adding
trudging
to the
through
list.
I am trudging through Monsters right now, and
Ooh.
if Murder Felony is anything like Monsters, because Monsters is fucking ruining me. Like, I love it, but I can read like 3 pages at a time and like put it down. It's
That's
nuts.
who's
this one.
That one.
Yes. It's way bigger than I thought it was gonna be. It's one of
That's
my
what she
favorite artists, Barry
Windsor Smith.
Barry Windsor Smith. Yeah, and this is
Murder Falcon.
Oh,
Murder
sorry. Why did I think Barry Windsor Smith for Daniel Warren Johnson? I have. And because Wonder Woman, Dead Earth, Murder Falcon. What was the other one?
Beta Ray Bill currently is one of my
Beta
favorites.
Ray Bill is so good.
Oh yeah, I've only read the first issue. The second one.
So good. Yeah,
So
second
good.
one's out. Part 3
Yeah.
comes out next week.
Okay, I have
And
to check that out.
Philadelphia comes back with an awesome David Mack cover.
Nice. I read this week for research for a project that I'm working on, Dynamite, and
That's a great response.
it was cool. It was cool. Research. I wouldn't have honestly pick it up by myself. I'm not gonna lie. It's not bad. It's not a bad book. It's not a bad book, and we get to see Vampirella without hair, which is pretty cool.
Oh.
Seeing a bald Vampirella. But yeah. Okay, back to.
So she turns into Chupacabra and injures one of the
Vejigantes.
Vejigantes. And the leader of them like taps her on the head and like puts her to sleep. So they're that powerful they can just knock her out.
Yeah. It's like, okay, it's this is enough. This page here.
What the fuck?
This
Yeah.
Sorry,
page
this
here-
comment just hit me.
Yep. This was the reason why I actually picked it up.
Oh shit! I did not know that.
No,
That's a great detail.
And apparently
so-
they stole. Yeah. Sorry. Go on.
Sorry, we'll get to that in a second. Sorry about that. It's just that my hand is getting tired of holding this thing. I'm too old to this shit. Anyway, so this page here reminds me a lot of Dave Sims. Jeff Smith's Bone, not Dave Sims.
Mhm.
Bone. In that specific page, I was like, oh my god. I mean, the whole book has a bunch of things that reminds me of Bone, but that page specifically. So I did not know that Monster was originally going to be a Hulk for Marvel. Damn.
It's funny because, like I said, that was the reason why I had picked up Monsters. And apparently they took some of the stuff that he pitched and used it.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And
Ooh.
also, I mentioned this on one of the on my Sunday show a couple weeks ago. The same week that what's his name? Who did the Spider? Mary Jane and the critiquing an artist thing.
J.
what's his
Scott
name?
Campbell.
Okay, so the same week that came out, oh my god, what's his name? Who does Savage Dragon?
Oh, Eric Larson.
Eric
When he
Larson.
got-
When he got blocked by Rob Liefeld.
Yeah.
What?
So Eric Larson, the same week that all that stupid stuff with J. Scott Campbell was coming out, Eric Larson actually tweeted out the dumbest shit that I saw on Twitter that week. And what
That's
he
why I
had to
stay
say
off
about
Twitter.
what he said about Monsters was that he was like, Barry Windsor Smith, it took you 18 years or 20 something years to do Monsters, and this is a really big book and it's 300 and something pages. That means you only did 2 pages a month. And I'm here saying it like Eric Larson can fuck off into the sun for all I care, because that was the dumbest shit I've ever heard, Eric Larson. So anyways, Eric Larson, if you're
God, I'm
watching,
glad
I
I didn't
stand by
see
my
that.
comment.
You know
Find me
that
outside.
that's the type of shit that angers me.
Catch me outside.
You know,
Catch me outside.
you know, that's the type of thing that actually irks me a little bit, because first of all, the dude was already, the dude's old, or was old, um, and man,
Different art style too. Like
That
look
and,
at those look at those, each of those panels takes a lot of hours. He should know, he's a comic book artist,
and he probably wrote it first before he even started outlining. And
so it probably took him like at least a decade probably to write it and like write it and rewrite it and write it and rewrite it, and like for every page that we saw, there's probably a page that we didn't see. So
yeah, like a passion project. Like I used to go nuts on on Twitter when Greg Capullo was doing Batman, and how many pages he threw away a fucking day.
But I mean,
his arms like fucking ripped.
Barry did this book, Frankenstein, is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein book, and it took him like 10 years to do. It's ink drawings. It's not. Why would he say something? Why?
Yeah, Bernie Wrightson, like his Frankenstein book he did, like took forever.
Yeah, no, wait, right. It's not the same dude.
But it's beautiful.
It's not the same dude.
No.
But I was using, it's the same example, it's ink
No, but
drawings,
Bernie
and it
Wrightson
takes
did one
time.
also.
Yeah. No. I was talking about the Bernie Wrightson one.
Okay.
I mistakenly said
it was
like
by 60,
him.
I think, when he did that.
Yeah, I think so, something. But it took him like 10 years to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great book. It looks beautiful. I started reading the other day. I haven't finished it. Got too much work.
Bernie Wrightson is the top horror artist ever.
Yes. Yes. It is.
Hiccup?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what happened. I was like, what was that?
No.
So with Tarantino and them, how they're keeping track how many souls they're losing as he's carrying the mother's soul. With we just lost 13.
Right. Yeah. I was like, wait, where are we? I forgot where we were.
And then when the mother leaves Tarantino, and you
that was
have
a beautiful page
where it's shooting up into the sky, and she's like, "Is that heaven?" And they're having that discussion of she was so worried about you. Who would take care of Izzy? Now she knows you can take care of yourself. That might be heaven to her.
Yeah.
So that's sweet.
Yes, it was. I think that's a nice way to touch that subject without getting too heavily into it. That's her heaven. She's now at peace. She knows you can take care of yourself. She knows that she's not going to be here, but you got this. So that's.
And then Tony afterward going, "I'm going to ask you one thing, and please answer me honestly. Did I let her down?" Yeah. And her holding his hand, and they show just the shadow outline of them talking, where they're actually in the white and everything else is in black in the contrast.
Yeah. Yes, that's a beautiful page.
I loved it. And then we have the funeral and her carrying the urn.
Yeah. So that cemetery that you see there in those pages, that's just like endless graves. That's an old cemetery in San Juan, and it looks exactly like that. Really old, really old. It's beautiful to go visit. And she just throws the ashes of the edge of the castle where we started this show. The morro, el morro.
We also go to the humor where Angel's cooking for Tony, and he's like, too rubbery. Are you totally high? Bacalaito should be
bacalaitos.
Bacalaitos.
Yes, bacalaitos. So they should be crispy. If they're too rubbery, if they have a nice taste, you can still eat them, but they have to be like eating chips that has codfish inside of it.
And then Laura's looking at all the college guides and just looking miserable. And then John's just like, hey, have you watched Breaking Bad? She's like, no, I don't have Netflix. He's like, well, you do now.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And her
I
sleeping
have
and
friends
then
like that too.
and then sleeping, and then she's like, you can have the police or the military to protect you, for I have something better than all of them. I have my chica. And then the eyes open up.
Yep.
And that's the end of the book. And
Yes.
Spoiler.
probably had a half dozen breakdowns making the book.
Oh, I bet. I mean, it's very heavy. It's very heavy, man. It's a very heavy book. I love it, but it's a heavy book.
So this is the part of the show where we do our will we recommend, what do we grade. Jen, we'll start with you. I mean, you've kind of already kind of said.
Yeah, I would 100% recommend this. I feel like the way that this, like I said earlier, the way that the pacing, the storytelling, the character development, I have a friend who invited me on their podcast, Friends Talking Nerdy, and they told me that they're actually taking a comic writing class, and one of the books that they're reading right now is maybe like a Frank Miller book or something like that. And I honestly, I get why that is, but I honestly feel like after reading this, I feel like this should be taught in school, how
Right?
to write comic books, because so much of comics, because it's such a blend of like art and storytelling, I feel like this isn't going to be Barry Windsor Smith style artwork, but I think the way that I know I called it simple, but it packs such an emotional punch, and it tells the story without giving you the info dump, right? So seriously, Tom, I feel like there should be a campaign to make this like required reading in comic book writing classes. So yes, I would highly recommend it. As far as like other books that I might recommend, I did mention this earlier. I thought Lowriders in Space, just the way that it handles like culture and like teaching culture, I felt like Lowriders in Space would be a funner read, but
Less heavy.
I'd probably, from like a storytelling standpoint, like maybe it's because we talked about it a month and a half, 2 months ago, but like Swamp Thing, a lot of those horror books, even though different monster, different styles, things like that, any monster book like that. Thank you. So, Tom, you mentioned that it's emotional to hear that. That's payback for the fucking emotions I got out of this. So,
Such a kid.
I didn't choose Comics Will Break Your Heart as a
It's
thing.
so appropriate. Yeah.
You stole it from Kirby.
I did steal it from Kirby, I stole it from someone who stole it from Kirby, because someone mentioned that Kirby said that to them at a comic book convention or something. So continually, every single week, even making Comics Will Break Your Heart like my thing. I'm still surprised when comics break my heart, and this one did it in a delightful way.
Right.
Kirby also
Right.
told Neil Adams to get out of the business because it won't be in business for another 5 years.
Oh wow. I mean, we're not all perfect.
Gambit.
I mean, would I recommend the book? Yes, I recommend this book. I feel like Jen says it's a good book to be in a class. I feel like this book should be used in classes here in the States, considering that Latinos are like the second biggest number in this country. This is a good way to expose people to Puerto Rican, some of the Puerto Rican culture, some of the Puerto Rico slang. I feel like if you're gonna put this book in a class in Puerto Rico, it would be great. It would give you. It has so much that you can use if it was to be used in a class. It has so much you can use. You can use it to teach storytelling. You can use it to teach writing. You can use it to teach some of the culture. There's so much you can take out of the book. And this is me detaching myself from my friendship and with Tom. This is me as a fan and as an artist, and as a father. This is a book that it if you have, like, for example, if you have someone that recently went through some loss and doesn't know how to handle it, and you don't know how to help them, you can give them this book and say, listen, this is going to be a heavy book to read right now, especially this second. It's going to be really heavy to read it, but I can guarantee you that once you're done, you are going to feel better.
You'll feel seen.
Yes, yeah, exactly, it's yes, that's you said it. Yeah, I would recommend the book. I give it a 9 out of 10, and that's because if I give it a 10, I will be, you know, what's the term, brown nosing, uh, uh but I think it's a great book. I can't wait for the second book to come out. I've been waiting for a while. I can't wait for the second book to come out. But it is such a good book that even if we know now that it's going to come out, but if it didn't, it has a good ending to it. It's a solid book from start to finish. It's a solid book. It's gonna enjoy it. It's easy when you go through it. It's even though it's a heavy book in some parts, it's an easy book to follow. The art is beautiful. The art is clean. And being such a softer style, it helps with delivering that message, and it helps you handle those heavy moments a little bit better than if you were reading the same heavy moment drawn by, let's say, Jim Lee or some other artist that it's incredibly detailed.
Mm-hmm.
That's a I'm sorry, I was reading the comment. That is a way to approach writing that I learned from him. Like when you're writing these characters, you have these people in your head. These people have to be real. These people have to be, when they discuss something or have an argument, that argument has to be a real argument. And when he said that to me once, it changes the way I wrote, especially my This Is Us comic and my Churchill comic that I was doing, my web comic, was heavily influenced by his work and what he did with True Story Swear to God. I at some point I actually considered calling my comic True Story I Shit You Not, just so it was like a nod, but then I was like, nah, that's too much, But yeah, I would recommend the book. Check it out, Chicacabra by Tom Beland. It was published by IDW. I'm pretty sure you can still find copies because my lovely hosts here have found a copy for this episode.
InStockTrades.com. You may have to wait 30 days to get it, but you'll get it eventually.
I wonder why.
They said COVID.
Okay, yeah.
My guess is they didn't have it in stock.
Yeah, because I couldn't get it through Amazon. I couldn't get it anywhere.
Wow.
Get it? Because in stock trades.
I get it now.
My humor is lost.
So I started the show by saying, first looking at the art, looking at the whimsy of it, I was not expecting the heaviness of the story. And I didn't realize I needed it and to go through this. And it was definitely handled, and parts of it reminded me of moments with my very Italian family side from New York, where, like I said earlier, it's like every cure was, here, eat this.
Some pasta.
Yeah, like literally, like, oh, you want some lasagna? Like, I got some meatballs simmering for 2 days. Like, you want it?
It tastes delicious.
It was like my grandmother could cook like no tomorrow. I was a fat kid. Like that. She's why.
I feel like I am definitely like the black sheep of my Italian family for so many reasons. And one of those is because I come from an Italian family, an Italian and like Polish family, and I don't know how to cook, like at all. Like I cannot fucking cook. And my family probably, like, my grandmother is in heaven, I think. like wants to disown me.
That's horrible to see this, Tom.
Yeah.
Like that just that broke my heart.
That I knew and it's really shitty how so many artists, you know, unless the book goes like and sells you know, gets option or sells, you know, a shit ton of comics right off the bat, you know, the artist probably won't see any of it, you know.
I would like to know, like Tom, if you're still in the chat, I would love to know how people can support you, and like if someone wanted to buy this book directly from you, like is there a contact, is there a website, is there a way that we can put money in your pocket?
I don't know if he's still in the
Or
chat, but
contact Gambit after the fact and just
Yeah.
let him know so we can post.
yeah, you can contact me and I can give you the link to his Instagram page. He's very active on his Instagram page. He posts art
Also,
all the
Tom,
time.
if you're still there, like when your next book comes out, we would love to have you on and
Yes.
promote it and talk about it. Because we are big fans of this, and anything we can do to get eyes on you to
We
help
want to see more.
support.
Yeah, definitely want more people to see it.
As for do I recommend? Hell yes. I would say also if you're looking for something like this is way off the beaten path of books to read. If you want a book that will make you go through it, Bliss from Image Comics by Sean Lewis.
The penultimate penultimate issue came out last week.
Yeah.
And like I'm waiting for that book to like wrap up and just murder me again.
But if you want like whimsy with a little bit of culture and I wouldn't say there's romance and a little bit of heartbreak, read the books by Rumiko Takahashi, like Ranma, Lum, stuff like that. I feel like the style kind of fits a little bit. Not saying they're the same. There's financial support, but also it's also emotional support.
Let us give you money. Let us give you money.
Amazon does not have them in stock. They're unavailable.
Go follow him on Instagram. He's Tommy Beland. Sorry, I always get it wrong. Tommy Beland on Instagram, and you can if you want to support him directly, you can buy some of his art. He posts sketch covers all the time, and they're all hilarious. Like if you like this, if you like the art on this book, just go through his Instagram page and browse through some of those sketch covers that he does, and they're hilarious. Especially if you
saw the Vader is down one that you posted today.
The one that is like, who's up for pizza? And Vader is down.
I'm giving this a 9.5 out of 10.
Yes.
Which for me is very high. I don't touch the nines very often.
What I have to say, I mean, like, granted, last month's book I think did this, but and maybe I can't recall over all the books that, like, I know I've been a part of book club over the last year or so, and Gambit obviously for longer, but I don't think that there's been many books where everyone would recommend it and everyone spoke highly of it. Like even thinking about books like Monstrous, which is a great book. Like I think that it was a book where we were like, not everyone really loved it and enjoyed it. So like seriously, like granted there's only 3 of us. Sometimes there's been bigger groups.
Crowds.
Yeah.
Also, we went an hour and 40 without going off subject.
Nice.
I mean, a little off subject.
We did some
cultural.
But it was all related somehow.
There hasn't been any other book other than Swamp Thing that I recall where everyone was just like, I loved this book. This is a 9 or above.
Black Hammer, I think, was the last one we were like pretty unanimous.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, that was a year ago, I think.
Yeah, that was like Jen's second episode.
Really? That was our second episode? No.
Yeah, Lock and Key was the first.
Lock and Key, Black Hammer, Scott Pilgrim?
Nailbiter.
Yeah.
We haven't done Scott Pilgrim.
No, me, her, and Cinia did it.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait, did I miss an episode? Did you guys not invite me to an episode?
During the pandemic when we were doing shows almost every other day and like Oh, believe me, I suffer from anxiety and depression. I feel you.
Same man. Yeah.
I'm really glad that we got the chance to finally talk about this book. I like I said, I tried not to be too like hey, but I think it was about time that
It was the
I'm
perfect
really
time
happy.
for it, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
Other than the
actually,
difficulty of getting it.
yes, that was the only thing. Yeah, but it's a great, I guess, great timing. Honestly, like it's a lot of heaviness going on right now, and actually, this was really refreshing to read. And at the end, I love your mug.
Thank you. I went to the University of North Texas.
Yes, no, I know.
Yeah.
I've been there. I've been there too.
Hmm. I really like the University of
The
North
University
Texas.
of North Texas.
I go there frequently. Visit there.
So, Jennifer, I'm actually going to remember for once.
Yeah.
What is your pick for next month?
So, if I remember
Our
correctly,
2-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Of the show.
If I remember correctly, June is Pride Month, right? Or is it July? Whatever. Fuck it. It's all made up.
We can celebrate it every month.
Yeah.
I think it's June.
This book I think has been around for a while, but I really did want to. It's been a minute. I don't think that we've really done any like memoir books, and thinking about memoirs and it being Pride Month in June. I recently read this. I mean, like I say recently, but like 3-4 months ago. But Genderqueer by Maya Kobabe. It was a really, really good read, and I really love to read it again, especially for Pride Month.
All right,
so Genderqueer.
Let me look that up. Where's my phone? Oh, it's right here. Genderqueer. Adding it to the list right now.
Okay, it's available.
I was gonna say, I'm kind of mad at Powell's right now, but
they canceled 3 of my orders.
Oh, really?
Yes, they said they had them in stock, and then they canceled them.
Who?
Powell's bookstore.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
If you're looking for used graphic novels, you can usually find some gold.
Yeah, for real. I actually, I can't remember if I got this one used there or if I ended up getting this at my local shop, but it should be readily available.
Comixology has it instantly. You can get it on paperback from Amazon if need be.
All right. I usually try when I have to buy something new. I usually try to get it from my local.
Yeah, your comic store is actually good.
From my local comic
I kind of shit on my LCS on the comic relief show I did yesterday. I'll send you the link later too.
Yeah, I definitely need to see that. I definitely need to see that, dude. I used to love that store. Nothing would get me out of that store. But I think I used to love that store for the fact that I was literally working crossing the hall from it, and I had comics like at arm's reach. So I think that was the main reason I loved that store. But I honestly right now I drive almost 40 minutes sometimes to get to the other comic book store because
I order from Andrew Comic Book Campaign.
Yeah, exactly. I ordered something from him a little bit long ago now that I think of it. I think it was the other day, and it's been like 6 months probably.
Yeah, Jen, if you get the chance, since you have it in hand, post a picture to being the next book.
Yes,
on your Insta, and then we'll just copy it.
We'll find it.
I was trying to figure out, like, there's a couple of other books. Like, I also picked up Queer History. There's also
I almost thought you were going to pick Barbalian.
I think that should be supplemental reading. But this one I felt, since we haven't really done a memoir, I feel like this one, since there's a lot of like personal experience in this, I thought that this one would be really good. So I really enjoyed this book.
Okay.
Not that I didn't enjoy Barbalian. Barbalian was fucking
It's
amazing.
on my Amazon shopping list for this week.
I'm starting to. I went to the comic book store today, because it's Wednesday. And I finally had a day off after almost a month without a day off. And I pick up a bunch of stuff, and I'm starting to notice a pattern. I noticed that I haven't picked up a DC comic book in months, not even a trade. All I'm picking up right now it's Thor, which is actually being very good. They just finished.
The beta rate bill has been so fucking
Yeah,
good. It's better than it
I
should
read.
be.
Nice. I read the first issue and I loved it, so I can't wait to get the second one. And the Thor book is actually really good. This is the story just ended with Donald Blake. Oh my god! And I'm not gonna lie. When they announced that Donny Cates was gonna write Thor, I was like, it's gonna be really difficult to replace Jason Aaron on Thor because I love his run. But holy shit! Anyway, so I noticed a pattern aside from all the X-Men stuff that I'm reading, because I noticed that I'm getting a lot of fantasy, Conan and Red Sonja, which is something that I usually
Nightwing's been
never
good.
usually never pick up. Yeah, I've read that. I've heard someone mention that Nightwing was
So
really good
good.
when I was at the store today, but I haven't picked up a DC comic book in a while.
Wonder Girl had all the cheesecake
Really?
panels today. Yeah.
I have mixed feelings about Wonder Girl.
Yeah, I
Really?
the future state was way better but they're getting to making her what she is, so this is kind of the origin, so I'm being very forgiving, I guess.
I didn't read anything of the future state stuff.
Swamp
I
Thing.
read all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we read all of it every week talking about it, and
It nearly broke me. Like,
Really?
yeah.
Was it good? Did it have good things? I mean,
No.
I haven't heard.
it
I
went
haven't
too long.
heard any-
Swamp Thing, Wonder Woman, the Immortal Wonder Woman.
Superman versus Imperious Lex was easily the sleeper hit.
All right.
Yeah. And what blows my mind about Future State is that it could have easily, like, Batman, like, all the new Batman stuff should have easily been, like, what was talked about most. And I couldn't have given a shit less about Batman. Even, like, the new Batman, I just feel like it didn't work. So, like, obviously, like, Swamp Thing was my favorite. But.
And the new Swamp Thing series by Ram V and Mike Perkins has been fucking phenomenal.
All right, I'm gonna have to check that one out. I definitely have to check that one out. I've been wanting to pick it up.
What was the other?
Just the one add another book to my pull list.
Oh, the other history of the DC universe I've been loving.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's good.
Nice.
Especially the issue with
because they did Katana
where they talked about Deathstroke and basically calling him a pedophile.
Oh, I mean,
it's not true, like, but nobody's really ever shouted it out.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
And then Bumblebee and what was the other character's name? He's gone through different names, but he has the trumpet. But them, when they were the Teen Titans, and kind of shitting on them and how they were so dysfunctional and treated them like shit. And then it's Renee Montoya next week as question.
I'm gonna have to check that. I think I'm gonna wait for a trade. Future State, I'm waiting for the trades to come out and then just read the trades. Honestly, I bought some of those blank covers for Future State, and when I saw that those books some of them were $8, I was like, I am not gonna pay $8 for each comic book.
Like, honestly, Swamp Thing, Immortal Wonder Woman by Jen Bartel was just amazing art-wise with the colors. Harley Quinn actually was fun.
I liked Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
I haven't. No. You know what surprised me? That was way better than I was expecting. You know that Marvel has the rights for Conan, but there's this company from
Cimmerian?
The Cimmerian.
Yes.
This is one of those books that I pick up today. This is one of I've been reading. They release it in 2-issue stories. Because they're not Robert E. Howard stories weren't long stories. They were just a few pages. I think I forgot the name of the longest one right now. Shit. Anyway,
Vigilante is all about that.
So that book, The Cimmerian, it's just adaptations of Robert E. Howard's books. That's why they can get away with publishing it and Marvel not being like about it, which they did. But they're actually very well done, and the art is really beautiful. Each book has a different art team, a different artist and a different writer. It's just, like I said, 2 issues each story, and it's actually been very good. I recommend Carmen, which was, yes.
It's 3 issues currently.
I'm gonna check it out. I'm definitely gonna check that one out.
I
We're
hate
gonna check that
Carmen
one out.
so much.
The third issue
hate
is
it,
so
really?
good.
I heard
haven't
that it was
read-
good. I just hate it. I hated the
haven't,
first two.
I noticed that Gore posted there that he's been reading Rorschach. How do you say that? How do you
Rorschach.
say Rorschach? Okay, Rorschach. Now I know how you feel when you try to say Vejigante.
That's lots of Tom King. I haven't read that yet. I've got it in my pile right
I
now.
haven't read it either, but like Gambit, if you're not reading this, I feel like I've personally
Lila
failed
Star?
you. The Many Deaths of Layla Starr is that I have only read issue 1. I haven't even read issue 2. It's my favorite book so far this year.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be my favorite book this year. I just know it.
Silver City from Aftershock I really loved last week.
If you haven't had a chance to pick up issue 1 of this, was really good.
The Many
recommend it.
Deaths
The Many
of
Deaths of Layla Starr.
by Ram V.
Star. All right, I'm making. I have a chat head open with the comic book store, and I'm typing every title. Like type it, and then we're just gonna hit send.
So I remember like we made a promise we weren't going to go over an hour and a half anymore.
Oh my god!
We're at the
right?
2-hour mark, but this was actually a super good discussion, and I think this is the most involved we've been in a book that we haven't gone off subject in a while.
Yeah.
So this was good. Maybe the 2-month break helped.
Yeah, I mean, let's try next month to not be more than an hour and a half, just to keep it, into that. But if we go into the 2-hour mark, okay.
And we'll be doing gender
not be
queer.
2 months. It better
No,
not be 2 months, 'cause this should
no.
happen in June. I mean, you should read it any time of the year, but
well, it's available.
fits.
I'm not going to have to wait 30 days to get
gender queer.
I'd also my schedule's changing. I have set days now finally.
Oh, nice.
So I'll have Fridays and Saturdays off.
Oh.
So it gives us a little bit of flexibility.
Nice. That's awesome. That's great. I still have Wednesdays and Thursdays off. But slow season should start soon.
So I have an idea to finish my sleeve also.
All right, so let's start working on that.
The Hellraiser puzzle box with chains filling in the empty space.
I like that. I'm gonna text you when we're done here, and we can set up the appointment now because I am booking July, so we have to
Jesus Christ.
I know. It's great. I'm not gonna lie. It's great. I'm booked until July. The 5th or the 6th is my next available day, which is great. I've never been booked that far ahead. It's been great. I love it. I love it. Yes, I'm going to Puerto Rico in June for a guest spot in Valhalla Tattoo Gallery in Carolina. So I'll be there for a week, and I'm already booked in that week. So tattooing is my business, and business is good, man.
And Jen's talking about getting a tattoo since she got vaccinated.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
I want to get like 100.
Yes. Oh, I have to talk to you about a possible trip before the end of the year to that side of the country. For
Are you coming to Portland?
Yes, yes. I mean, or close to it, depending on where the next convention in that area is.
There's Rose. Are you talking about comic book convention? There's
no
Rose City
tattoo
Comic-
convention. No tattoo convention. Yeah. I'm looking to do more tattoo conventions around the or guest spots. So if I don't get to go to a tattoo convention, I'll find a tattoo studio close
I need
to
a Swamp Thing.
I do. I think that I'm probably gonna get a Swamp Thing tattoo. Maybe. I don't know.
Ooh, yes. I would love that. But
Come out to
yes.
Portland.
I
One
would
of the
friend.
Viceroy drawings.
I would love to talk Matt Wagner's Grendel sometime.
I've never read it. I think you gave me one book or one of
Yes,
those
when I had my nervous breakdown, I gave you all of them.
I still have them because I take gifts very, very, very close to my heart, and I keep all of them. So everything that I've sold or given away, it's stuff that I bought, and every time I pick up, okay, so I have to go every time I pick up a book, it's like, okay, where did I get this book? Okay, no, this was a gift. This one stays. Okay, no, this one goes to the donation pile.
I haven't read the Hernandez Brothers Love and Rockets in over 20 years.
Oh,
It's been a long...
I've never heard of that one.
It was one of the biggest indies for a while.
Okay, so you have to understand something. Well, you don't have to understand, but so that you understand something, I'm gonna let's say, I would say 5 years ago, no, that's too recent. I was already a little bit into more indie comics back then, but I would say
You were a big two guy.
Yeah, yeah, it was DC, Marvel, and Image at best, because at some point, even Image, I was like, whatever, you know.
Well, Image was a
It's
joke
now
for a while. It was like where you put up all
exactly
your dreck.
exactly for a while. I honestly, when I learned that I had forgotten, I thought Spawn was canceled. I thought Savage Dragon was canceled, and one day I was reading, I was like, oh shit, this is still being published. What, you know? And then Saga came out. And I'm like, oh, okay, I see. And someone
Jim
said you should read
Valentino,
Saga.
like from the moment he got tricked by Kirkman about aliens being part of The Walking Dead.
You want to hear a story about that? You want to hear a funny story about that? Not about that. A funny story that it's similar to that. So around the same time, me and my friend Aníbal, and me, I had a webcomic called The Zombie Apocalypse. Humanity's worst enemy is humanity itself. You know, it was all about not the zombies. It was about the struggle between the humans and how it's just the humans who are horrible. The zombies are just something that are part of the background, right? And our story around issue 5 was going to introduce aliens to it, because the zombies were going to be soldiers for these aliens that they were going to come pick them up and take them to fight their war in some other planet, you know. And that was our idea of working on the zombie apocalypse. One day we were talking about the zombie apocalypse to another friend, and he says, have you ever read of The Walking Dead? And we were like, no, no, no. What we didn't know what The Walking Dead was. And I said, no, what is that? And so he started talking about Walking Dead. We're like, oh shit, that's very fucking similar to what we're doing, right? Except that back then the story about the alien things wasn't a thing. So we just like lost. I lost interest. I got focused on my tattoo career that was starting to take off at the same time, and I just you know just I just let it die, and left it like that. Years later, I learned that Kirkman had to tell Valentino that that he was going to have aliens on his book in order to get published. And I was like, shit, we were actually going to have aliens in our book. What the hell, man?
I assume Kirkman stole it.
Right? He stole it from my memories, from our
Yeah.
ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure it's like Rule 34. You know, if you thought about it, there's a porn version. Well, if you thought about it, someone else thought about it at some point.
Okay, genderqueer is ordered.
All right, perfect. I just sent a message to Famous Faces, so that they, when they get it, probably get a message back saying, "Yeah, we got it," because they have an incredible, insane, huge collection of trade paperbacks.
Nice.
So
You have to look at
it's
that. Mhm.
a good time to end it. We're over
Yes.
2 hours.
Yes, I
It's
think
11
perfect.
o'clock here. Thank you, everybody who stayed with us,
Yes.
joined us, interacted in the chat. Thank you, Tom, for coming into the chat and talking about the book and kind of giving input on stuff that we loved. And please go support him. Check out his Insta, buy art. Grab the book if you can and give it a read and go through it like we did.
Yes, he's a really funny dude. Like, for real, he's a really funny dude.
And thank you, Sheena. I appreciate it. Love you.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Scott.
Guys, it's been too long since we got together, so I'm really happy that we got to do this tonight. I really love you guys, and I really appreciate you guys. So let's not wait 2 months. Let's do it again next month. And
it was great having the gang back together.
yes, right. It felt nice. At first, I was like, oh man, it's just gonna be 3 of us. I kind of got used to having
I see
more
how it
people
is.
with us.
Okay.
No. Listen, Linda, listen. And I was and I was like, oh man, but at getting closer to the hour, I was like, oh no, it's actually gonna be nice to, it's gonna be the 3 of us today, so it's gonna be nice after a long break to just be us for a little bit, like get more time to speak to you guys. So gambitsync.com, gambitsync on Instagram, gambitsync on Facebook. Check out my new shirt. Let me get up.
Does it say?
Oh, not tattooed and depressed.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be the tattooed and depressed.
No, this one's the Green Reaper that has a Nintendo controller, and it says press start in the bottom. It says press start. Yeah, the tattoo and depressed is my favorite one. I posted that one yesterday. This one's going to be next week t-shirt. But yeah.
Very nice.
Got anything going on your website, sales or anything?
No, I don't have any sales right now, but you
Just
can go
shirts.
buy shit from my website if you want to. That would really appreciate that. So yeah, check out my Instagram. It's Gambits Inc. Usually through my Instagram, you're gonna get access to everything because I can't stop talking about my shit on my Instagram. So go check it out.
Jennifer?
So the YouTube's is Comics Will Break Your Heart.
Link is in the description.
Oh, perfect. But on Instagram, it's Comic Books Will Break
It's
Your
on
Heart.
there too.
Okay. I guess I'll go fuck myself. So
Can I watch?
one, yeah. I'll put my PayPal.
Only comic fans.
Yeah, I'll put my PayPal in the link.
Only
yeah,
comic fans.
I'm
We might
pretty
be
sure
into
my
something.
Venmo is Comics Will Break Your Heart. So Venmo.
But that's good. That's great branding. That's what I did with
Yeah,
my Gambit
right?
Sync. It's Gambit Sync everywhere. My YouPorn is Gambit Sync. My Venmo is Gambit
Perfect.
Sync. My YouTube is Gambit Sync.
Yeah. Just as long as you don't have the same password, because then
No,
like,
exactly.
people
That's
can.
a problem. No.
On YouTube, I do a show on Sunday. Sometimes it's Sunday morning, sometimes it's Sunday evening. I think it's gonna consistently be Sunday morning going forward. And I've been on with Will DeBeast Comic Talk Live on Friday nights, but we're not doing it this Friday night. Taking a week off, but I'll be back Sunday on my channel. So.
Awesome.
Tomorrow I will be on Tag Team Thursday at the 7:15 hour or 7:15 spot. John's Comics will not be there, so I think Rod's doing a half hour. So
nice.
that should be interesting. That's all for this week. And then next week on Friday the 28th, after Tag Team Thursday that week, I have I'll be guest hosting with Comics Kings for his weekly wrap up. And then I have Celluloid and Scotch with Carlito, and we're talking the new Mortal Kombat movie, and then each bringing a movie to discuss that maybe we feel people should watch. And nothing that weekend, but then the weekend after that, I have Running with the Devil, the Daredevil show. We're doing volume 2 of Frank Miller's Daredevil, and there's some overt racism I noticed on this read through.
In a Frank Miller book? Weird.
Really?
Well, what I thought was a speech impediment as a kid, I was like,
oh yeah, it's not a speech impediment.
Yeah, Turk. And I was like, oh no. And I was like, you know what? I don't have the energy to get into this shit today. I'll save this for volume 2. Because if I recall, it gets worse.
I mean, it's really rough to go back and read some of the stuff that we loved when we were kids. Not gonna lie, it's sometimes a little bit difficult to go through them. You were like, oh man.
Read Across the Stars and I were talking about it, and she's like, boy, it's rough. And I was like, oh, well, you know who his idol is? And she's like, no. I was like, Will Eisner. And then I showed her a picture of Ebony Black, and she's like, what in the fuck?
Well, I mean, but to be fair, you know, Will Eisner comes from a very, cartoons were done in a different way back then. They were not the proper way. I'm not defending it at all, but we sometimes have to put these things into, before we go like, raw. It's a product of that time.
It made the depiction of Japanese during World War II look subtle.
Yeah, but yeah, of course, but we get that during those times. We get that in almost every media that was presented to us. That was the norm for a while. Now we recognize it for what it is, and we're working on being better, which is, I think, it's the whole purpose of this. Grow from that and be better than that. Learn from these horrible mistakes that were done in the past and be like, shit. We don't do this anymore. No, we don't do that here, and move on from that. No.
I'm in a weird place with it, with the Eisner stuff.
I'm not defending the Eisner stuff. I'm not defending anything like that. I'm saying that, when you have when you read a
and Jen grabbing the cup, and I'm like,
but it's true. If you get the Fleischer, the Max Fleischer Superman books, you get some some episodes where the Japanese were not portrayed in a nice light either, and there's a little bit, of stereotyping there, so I feel like, I feel like once you put some certain things, especially the older stuff, you put it now, if you reprint these things now and you don't put a preface saying, or you remake it and you keep it exactly like that, then you suck, because then you didn't learn anything from that. But some of this older stuff, we have to put it into that historical context, and put it into that time frame where things were seen very different to where they see now. Doesn't mean that we have to applaud it, doesn't mean that we have to defend it, but we have to look at for what it is, learn from that, and when we produce something newer, we make sure that we don't do those things that they did that were so fucked up.
Also, just a quick little shout out. Next week, Philadelphia comes back, so go support friend of the channel, Rodney Barnes.
Yes.
David Mack does an amazing cover of Abigail Adams as the B variant. Once again, a murderer's row of artists on the variants. So, also, Rodney's just a great dude.
Yes.
So thank you, everybody. Make sure to keep up with us, and we'll know soon enough what else we have going on. Of course, Genderqueer coming up sometime probably about the middle or close to the end of the month, more than likely.
Yes.
Are you going to be able to do it since you're going to be in Puerto Rico?
I'm going to be in Puerto Rico just 1 week.
Okay. I thought you were there for the month.
No, I'm going to be there between the 13 and the 18, 14 and 18, the 4 to the 14 to the 18, just 1 week. Okay. So as long as it's not any of those days, 13 to 19, we'll be fine.
And don't come back with a chupacabra inhabiting your body.
Right? No, sadly,
it was really cute.
Sadly, we don't have chupacabras down there anymore, but the last one, Easy took it, so
go find the lab.
Yeah, right. I have to find that lab. I have to go into those caves that don't exist.
So again, thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.